not just quality content, but consistent quality content. Why are they having such a hard time accepting the fact that this is really going to be the future? Is it just leadership? Is it just maybe a lack of understanding kind of where things are going in the future?
Marketers have not been pushed to show value. For them, the value proposition came, we're going to allocate this budget to buy Google ads, Facebook ads, and everything else. A real marketer to me is someone that's like is showing creative. It's very easy to take this lazy approach, set up a budget, pay Facebook and Google, and we get our leads and everybody's fat and happy. Multifamily does not work in a bubble. We don't work in a bubble. A lot of times we feel like we're in a bubble, right? Because we're looking, a lot of echo chambers are being built, and a lot of the stuff, this is how we always done it. Well, that's not gonna go on for much longer. Things are changing and disruption is coming. Don't confuse disruption with destruction.
So why don't you think the industry is willing to talk about this openly, this frankly at this time?
Insecurity at the highest level.
Well, like 1 to 3 years, maybe faster. Your company, your property, yourself can almost overnight become irrelevant. And when you're irrelevant, AD, welcome to the show, man.
Great to be here, brother.
It's great to have you. For those who don't know, which I don't know who wouldn't know who AD is, Adrian Danila. Adrian, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate you being on today.
Really, really excited and pumped to chat with you today.
Well, obviously, this is round two, a bit of a return the favor of sorts, right? Now I'm talking to you about some of the stuff you got going on. Obviously, today will be a fun conversation for both of us. We've experienced a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we're doing. I know there's a whole bunch of stuff that you're seeing in the industry. I'm excited to pick your brain quite a bit as a friend, but obviously as a podcast host as well. But for the audience, like I said, who maybe doesn't know precisely what you do, tell them what you do, the company you run, all the things, man.
Yeah, so high level, 2 years ago yesterday, I started
yesterday
on my own. Yeah, it was 11th or 12th. I think it was September 11 actually.
Wow, okay.
I just saw it in my Facebook memories, right?
Yeah.
It popped up a couple of days ago saying that I just decided to go on my own. So it's been 2 years now. So what I do mainly is advisory for the property management for the multifamily industry. I advise service providers and also property management companies. On the service provider side, it's strategic advice about business development and also partnerships, right? Basically matching them with operators' needs, getting them into places where typically people don't go. Through a very vast network that I had, and I know who needs what, it's very easy to match a need with a service that's out there that matches that particular need. And me being like very involved with conferences, with talking to people all the time. So that's one of the things. The second part of advisory is for property management companies that are looking to improve their maintenance operations, make more money with maintenance, save cost, save expense, anything else. I build maintenance systems from ground up, where I could take something that's existing, improve it, and then just kind of like let them run with it. My goal is not to get out there and just like become a fixture in a company. My goal is to get in, to improve their operations, and just hand it over to the people that actually work for the company, for them to run with it and be successful.
That's awesome, man. To say you're doing a lot is maybe an understatement. So you're doing a lot of stuff for a lot of different companies. Talk to us a little bit about your background, though. You've been in this industry a couple decades, right? It's evolved. Obviously, it started from the facility side, but it's now evolved into something much different. But walk us through, maybe give us the short version of the 20 years.
Yeah, so started in 2003 when I first came to the States. Was looking for a full-time job with benefits for $10 an hour. That was my goal. I got an opportunity part-time at a small apartment community as a groundskeeper. I wasn't speaking the language, so very grateful for that opportunity back in the day. Sonia, if you're watching this, thank you. And that turned into a full-time, and then moved up to punch, technician, assistant service manager. Eventually, I landed a number of corporate jobs like director and VP level. And after 20 years on the operations side, I decided that I'm more passionate to help more than one company at once, right? And the way I would do that, it can be like a W-2 gig. It's gonna have to be from an advisory role. So I opened my own firm and I'm doing what I just described to you. And we also do other things for the clients to, we're seeing needs in a market for content, for organic content, video, audio, written content, and then we're also doing like web design, and we're doing like podcast production, video production, things of that nature. So a little bit about marketing too.
So talk to me about entrepreneurship, and really talk to the audience. We talk often, as you know, entrepreneurship was. And maybe we have a similar story. We worked W-2 corporate jobs for almost 20 years, maybe yours a little bit longer than 20. But did you ever think that you would be a small business owner, an entrepreneur? And I could see your answer is no. But when did it click? When did it, turn of events may happen, but like when did you think like this may be for me, and I may be best at this versus just working for one company?
Great question there. So. Over the years, people have asked me, why don't you start your own firm? You could do great with that. And I said, absolutely not. I'm happy being an employee delivering. I don't have to worry about writing my own check. I'm just going to deliver. My employer is going to have to worry about paying me. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm very good this way. And as I was moving up the ladder in various firms, I kind of reached the ceiling. Mm-hmm. For someone in my position coming on a facility side, a VP of facilities is kind of the highest role that you could get into. It's very, very hard to go on a management side to become like a chief operating officer, because typically that financial education is not there, that component, so you don't really have that type of access. So once I reach that ceiling, I figure, okay, I still have, I guess, God willing, 2 decades left or whatever. For me, this is the highest that I would ever go. And I felt like 20 years, it's a very long time, right? And what is another alternative for me to, not necessarily to advance, but to expand my knowledge, the number of people that I could help, the number of companies that I could affect the change for. And the answer was pretty much like I had to go on my own. So it was just a process. I never really, again, thought about it seriously up until 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, right? And that just happened when my company sold. It was purchased by another management company, and after the transition, they laid me off for a very pragmatic reason, because I was living in Atlanta. The assets were West Coast. They already had people on the West Coast, so I knew that was a short-lived experience, and no hard feelings there. But anyway, I thought that instead, like going back to like trying to get back in a game as a full-time employee, for me, the best move, that was the time. That was the best time for me to start.
Well, I'll tell you, as a friend, I've been really inspired by your story. Obviously, for years now, we've talked almost every week, just catching up. And obviously, as you launched on your own, many at the same time were in my ear like yours, right? And saying, hey, have you considered, being able to help more clients than just one company? And, I, like you, never really considered that. And, you and I talk more and more, and I will say, and I'm not sure the audience knows this, but you were very instrumental in encouraging me along the way to strongly, consider this route. And obviously you found a lot of success along the way. What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about entrepreneurship? What have you learned about the industry over the last couple of years? I'm sure there's a lot of takeaways.
Yeah, so what I learned about myself is that I had some limits that I didn't know that I could push. I learned that I had new limits even though now I turned 50, so I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. But I learned that I could still keep pushing and keep growing. What I learned about entrepreneurship is that it's the hardest thing that I ever tried in my life by far. And then if you don't have a burning desire to affect change, to me is not mainly about the money. Like the financial drive, it's not what like pushes me forward. If you don't have some sort of a mission, just something that's kind of like bigger than yourself, and then just making money, I think is gonna be a very incredibly like frustrating and very hard journey for you.
What's your bigger mission?
My bigger mission is to affect as many organizations as I can throughout my career, and also to build a legacy, to just leave something that will last beyond my physical career and potentially my physical life. So that's kind of what drives me here. And I think that from an entrepreneurship standpoint, I'm in a position, there's tools out there available in a bag that typically from just a W-2 position, not that they're not available, but they're harder to reach, and it's kind of harder to make that type of a difference that way.
You mentioned limits that you realized that either you had or that you could push through. There's a lot of people that want to be consultants, a lot of people that want to have their own small business, a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs in multifamily. I talk to them often. I think you probably talk to them often as well. I think you referred or inferred to the fact that some are wired to be successful in that way because maybe they have that mission that you talked about, or they have that work ethic or that focus. What do you think it takes? Because I've come to realize I don't think everybody's, I don't want to say built for this, but I don't know if everybody really wants this, because there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. You and I both know there's a tremendous amount of work involved. There's a lot of self-selling, right? A lot of people feel really uncomfortable selling themselves. So you have to get to that point where you feel very confident in what you're doing. What would you say to someone listening that says, I want to do what Adrian's doing? What should I do? How should I go about that? How should I self-assess if I'm right for it?
I'll say probably the best move will be to look throughout the entire landscape and just take someone that would be kind of like a role model for you and say, I want to become, like, let's just say Tony Sousa. I want to become like Tony Sousa one day. And then understand what it takes to be Tony Sousa and back engineer that, reverse engineering. Because if you're just saying, hey, I want to be this person, and you build something within your own mind with no knowledge of what it takes, I think you're going to be in for a lot of disappointment, a lot of heartache. And of course, I understand that there's a lot going on in the world, in the industry as well. We're seeing a lot of layoffs, and I think this is just the beginning. We might get into that later on, the way technology AI affects everything, and what jobs are going to be the most affected. And then it becomes, I think, for some, just a new way to saying I'm unemployed, and instead of saying I'm unemployed, now they're saying I'm a consultant, but without actually the desire to make this a long-term career. It's just, okay, I'm just gonna consult for the time being, and then once I land a full-time job, then I'll transition back. And it's nothing wrong with that. When I decided to start this new career, it wasn't because I couldn't get a full-time job. I wanted to do it on purpose. So it was a very purposeful decision for me. It wasn't to bridge an employment gap.
For somebody maybe struggling not only to find maybe another job, but also maybe struggling as a consultant or an entrepreneur, any advice that you have for them?
Yeah, I think understanding what is that you're trying to sell, and understand how does that match, how does that talk to people that could be your potential clients, and then try to do discovery. Try to actually, instead telling them that I have the service for you, try to understand their pain points. As long as you're gonna be able to articulate a solution for their pain points, I think that you have a really good chance at being successful. But don't try to build this entire system in your mind thinking that this is what they need. Don't guess. Don't ever guess. The best way to find out is to ask the questions. So ask a lot of questions, document yourself, and learn if you could build a product or a service that actually solves someone's headache. If that's the answer, go for it by all means. But if you can't, there's a very few ways that in which you could make money, you could monetize. If you make people more money, if you're able to reduce their expenses or remove a headache that they have, those are really the only three ways. Other than that, it's more like feel-good conversation or light thoughts. And I hope that everybody that's watching this kind of at this point entertaining this idea is that I learned this on my own, because I had some of ideas on my own before I started to define certain things. It was a painful process because I wasn't able to articulate a solution for someone's pain point. So it's been a learning process for me too. So I'm just sharing this. I'm not coming here to say that I did the perfect job, because there's nowhere near that, and you never really have the stuff figured out, really. I'm learning from others that have been doing it for like 30 years.
So I want to bring up something that we've talked about before, and I think also something that I think maybe both you and I were, I don't want to say deceived by, but maybe we put a lot more stock in than is actually truly valuable. And we talk about it often, the vanity metrics, right? The large audience, the levels of engagement. For the last 5+ years, I think we've enjoyed probably some of the highest levels of engagement on different platforms, LinkedIn specifically. What have you learned as an entrepreneur on how well some of that engagement, or we'll call it those metrics or vanity metrics, have translated to work or not translated to work? Because a lot of the things that I think you're saying right now, I don't think you referenced at all any of these sort of engagement metrics. And I think there may be a lot of consultants in multifamily that may think, well, I don't have a large following like Adrian or others. Maybe I can't be a consultant in that way. My sense is that you would argue you don't need to, and it doesn't always translate directly to business contracts. What are your thoughts to that?
Yeah, let's unpack here. So I'm just gonna start with building a brand. How do you build a brand? Obviously, you have to be very disciplined to consistently show up and actually share things that you believe in. Don't ever try to build a persona that's not yourself, because that's gonna be incredibly detrimental to you, and you're gonna be in for a lot of disappointment. So try to build a brand, build it intentionally, tell the right stories. Right stories meaning the stories that are right for you, not to follow an algorithm or like a trend or whatever. Just the stories that are right for you. Those are going to be the right stories to be told. And don't think that you're fringe. Even if you're appealing to 1%, 1% of the planet means about 80+ million people. That's almost the population of Germany, just to put it in terms. Of course, not the entire population of the world, it's on LinkedIn, but then I'm trying to give you that at scale. Even if it's 10%, if you're 1% out there, if you're appealing to 1%, that means that there's probably 8 million of people just like you out there. You just got to find a way to get to them, to speak directly to them, and you will.
Yeah. You've done a lot of work over the years, and you and I have talked a lot about this. Obviously, there's a lot of, we'll call them industry standards or expectations, the ways things have always been done in any industry, including multifamily. How are you challenging status quos on a daily basis? How have you challenged status quos over the last so many years as an entrepreneur, but maybe even as a prominent voice in multifamily pre-entrepreneurship? How have you done that? What are some of the barriers that you've faced? Talk to me about the industry. How quickly are they to accept some of these new practices and philosophies? And where are we now? My sense is people are becoming more open to conversations about brand and storytell and influencing, those sorts of things.
Lots of questions out there, but all great questions. So I'm going to start with the first one, I guess, that I picked up on. And the way I decided to go about what the industry believes or not, if I have, I guess, contradicting thoughts with what the trends were or what the mainstream thought was, instead actually challenging by saying, hey, this is all, this is wrong, I decided to go a different way and actually build that particular way in open, so people will see that there is a old way and that there's also a different way of doing things.
So not a new way, but a different
not
way.
necessarily, because I don't think this is a battle between old and new. I think it's just it's about best practices, and sometimes something old could be extremely valuable. I'm just thinking the U.S. Constitution is still around. It's probably the most well-written document that I ever encountered that it's ever been written, legal document. So that's very old. But then again, it's just we had to put things into the context too. And multifamily does not work in a bubble. We don't work in a bubble. A lot of times we feel like we're in a bubble, right? Because we're looking, a lot of echo chambers are being built, and a lot of the stuff, like you were saying earlier, this is how we always done it. Well, that's not gonna go on for much longer. Things are changing. and disruption is coming, right? Now, I always tell people, don't confuse disruption with destruction, right? A lot of people think that, they're disruptors, when in reality, they're just creating distractions from the,
You're saying
from the main
distractions?
distraction. Yes, they're distracting from the main topics of the conversation. And I'm gonna say here, the world is moving at a pace now that the human mind cannot even comprehend. We don't even understand how fast things are moving around us. And then multifamily is just like a small portion of that world. Do not believe or hope that this is not going to be affected. I think we're going to see tremendous changes in the way business is being done, the way people are looking at, brands, content, everything. Everything is being challenged. White collar jobs, I think, are going to be like the primary target for AI. We're going to see massive layoffs, that jobs that are not coming back. They're going to be reduced, eliminated in the white collar sector. And those are like, very highly paid jobs. They're going to be a target. We're going to be see in our industry massive layoffs. So for those that, are going to, become, I'll say, a target, I think it's probably, a good time to reassess, to reassess your role, what type of, value you're bringing to the organization, to the industry in general. I think it's a very honest conversation to have with yourself. I'm not saying it in a way that I want to be disparaging. I just see what's coming. And what's coming is like something unprecedented. Playing it safe, it's not going to be in the books anymore.
So a couple of questions, and thank you for, I'm not surprised that you're being this honest. And to be honest, I've actually been pretty amazed at how there's kind of a lack of discussion about how monumental and how game-changing AI is going to be in all industries. This isn't just multifamily. It feels as though it's as though we shouldn't be talking about it when it feels like it's the thing we should be talking about most and trying to help those both.
100%. We're already behind in a conversation. So we're already fairly late in a conversation. Now, we might have time. And I'm only saying this, we might have time because the industry hopefully was not targeted yet by a large company that has the capability to disrupt the industry. Once that happens, we can't really stand a chance. In a shape that we're right now, we're going to be completely obliterated. It's going to be a bloodbath, for sure. And if you think that this could be helpful, I'd like to maybe point a few areas, right? So we could take them one at a time. Content, for example. So let's just take organic content, the importance of it. I think many people are looking at someone like you and I, and they're saying, they're doing it. You mentioned vanity metrics. They're doing it to look interesting, to like gain this popularity. It's a popularity contest. Well, here's the deal. The way people are searching now, I'm talking about the internet search, has changed dramatically. From the old way of like typing in a question or a word into Google, and then Google gives you as a result a list of blue links. The way search evolves right now, you ask a question, and then typically that's not being done in a Google engine anymore. It migrates. Google is losing search numbers over ChatGPT and other search engines, and then AI engines. Those AI engines will give you like a detailed answer, and it will serve it to you. Let's just say an example. You look for an apartment, and you're typing in best or luxury apartments in San Antonio. Okay, if you search that on Google, the top answer right there is going to be apartments.com.
ILS, yeah.
If you're looking in ChatGPT, that's never to be found there. So apartments.com is never currently, that might change in the future, but currently if you're searching with ChatGPT, that's going to give you a list of apartment communities. There's no mention anywhere about apartments.com. So that raises the question, is the current ILS model still something that's sustainable? How is it going to adapt in order to still stay relevant? Because obviously in a current configuration, I'm not seeing it, right? Unless someone is like going back to the old way of searching through Google. it's not that, but that's diminishing. On the other side of the equation, if you're a business or a brand, personal brand, and you want to be discovered, right? What does it take for your name, Tony Sousa, to show up in that search when that person searches on ChatGPT, let's just say for like branding, branding firms or like branding advisory in multifamily or influencers in multifamily, whatever that might be, that you identify yourself with. What would it take for you to show up in the search? And to me, the obvious answer is authority. The authority is now built not by the old style SEO via websites, it's built through your social media ecosystem. The search engines have the capability to search now on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube.
Not just Google anymore. Now it's
not just Google, it's an entire ecosystem. So I had a very interesting experiment done. It wasn't even an experiment. I learned I'll say by mistake. I did a podcast. My guest was a young man from Colorado. He's a service manager. And then at the end of our conversation, I took a screenshot from StreamYard. I put it on LinkedIn as the picture, and then I wrote something about our conversation. A week after that post, my editor, who lives in Romania, went to do research on my guest so he could populate, the description of the video on YouTube and so on and so forth. When he typed into Google this young man's name, what showed up in a Google AI search was the precise post that I did a week prior. And Google AI search results cited my words, as a source of truth. It was actually describing this young individual with the words that I use in a post. So I want for all of you to understand this. My post has become this young man's resume and his bio on the internet, because I'm guessing, him being at the beginning, there's not a lot of information that the AI engine deemed source of truth or credible, and therefore took my LinkedIn post and turned it into his biography. That's extremely powerful.
So what you're saying, to just break it down simply, is your editor in Romania went to ChatGPT or some sort of AI search
to actually
engine.
Google. He did a Google search.
Oh, he Googled it.
He did a Google search, and now that Google has some real estate assigned to an AI search on it, and in the AI search
was essentially the content that you produced.
Exactly the content that I put out a week prior to that.
That's a game-changing situation for many, because typically it's pay to play, right? Like you typically would pay for an SEO campaign, or you would pay for a higher ranking on a Google search as though you're some sort of authority. But really what you're doing is just sort of paying to be that authority. Now it seems as though both Google and AI search engines are searching for organic content with strong engagement, or at least content period, engagement or not. For example, your technician had probably no content about them other than this. Now that served as the top ranking piece of information for this individual, whether that is from a competent or credible source or not. I think that's probably the next phase, I would imagine, for ChatGPT and some of these AI search engines is that it'll try to start ranking credibility of the sources. And it's probably doing that now. It's simply there was nothing there, so that's why that came up. It's interesting. I have to think, obviously, ILSs, others that want to continue to keep sort of hold of this priority rank, if you will, or credibility, are finding ways, and maybe it's not for this conversation, but finding ways to work with a ChatGPT or an AI search engine to figure out how to supplement content so that upon a search, their content can be supreme. But now they're competing with everybody who's producing content, and not everybody is. I mean, you say less than 3% of people are actually content producing.
They'll have to make that move. Everybody's being pushed in that direction. And what gets me very excited, not because I've been in a content game for several years. Well, honestly, that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
But then
you're ahead of the game.
I'll say ahead of those that
Sure.
are still early in the game or they haven't started yet. But what gets me the most excited about this new world that we're living is that we're becoming a meritocracy. We're becoming more and more of meritocracy. So it's based on strictly on merit. Am I getting a lot of engagement? Yeah, that's gonna help. My brand is gonna have my business brand, and it'll build relevance into with a word, and if not so much. So I still believe that the paid search is gonna have find a way. I'm sure ChatGPT will find a way to monetize and like also charge businesses to help them like get into the search results. But the way everything looks right now, it's like strictly a meritocracy, and I'm loving it.
So let's talk about content, right? Let's talk about it a little bit further. It seems as though it's one of the hardest components of the game of sorts, and it feels as though marketing departments, and we can only speak to multifamily, are really having a hard time understanding the content game or allocating the resources to organic quality content. What are the biggest challenges that you're seeing, that you're talking to? You're talking to a lot of marketers, so am I. It just doesn't seem as though they're prioritizing this level of quality content, not just quality content, but consistent quality content. Why are they having such a hard time accepting the fact that this is really going to be the future, just based on a lot of what we just talked about? But it doesn't seem like it's prioritized. Is it just leadership? Is it just maybe a lack of understanding kind of where things are going in the future?
Yes, I think the answer to me is very clear and very simple. Marketers have not been pushed to show value. For them, the value proposition came, we're going to allocate this type of a budget to buy Google ads, Facebook ads, and everything else. So basically, their contribution is to choosing whom they're paying for relevance.
Paid search at this point.
Paid search, right? But I wanted to see something that's more than that. A real marketer to me, it's someone that's is showing creative. Marketing is not paying Google to advertise for you on your behalf. That's not creative. I'm not seeing the creative there. And then there was another thing too. They didn't have the C-suite are typically not people that have this type of knowledge. They're hiring someone that has a high profile in the marketing world, and they're saying, well, we're hiring this person. They're going to make the right decisions for us. And then because there's no pressure, there's nothing that pushes them towards creativity and a meritocracy that we were talking about, it's very easy to take this lazy approach, because it's a very lazy approach. Set up a budget, pay Facebook and Google, and we get our leads, and everybody's fat and happy. Well, now things kind of changing, as we just talked about. So I would really love to see some game changing out there. I'll also welcome our I won't say fellow marketers. I don't have any type of marketing experience. I never went to school. I'm a student of marketing. I'm an avid student of marketing. So I would love to have maybe have some conversations with some great marketers out there. Maybe we do a roundtable or a panel with some that have been in a game to kind of understand what is that, how do they look at what we just talked about, and what are some things that they're doing.
I too have found it interesting, sort of in a resistance to going down this road of content, storytelling, organic content, because it seems as though both creatively and technically, it is the future. And if you're not allocating resources towards content for your company, for your property, for yourself, in the coming years, short amount of time, 1 to 3 years, maybe faster, your company, your property, yourself can almost overnight become irrelevant. And when you're irrelevant, that's when layoffs happen fast. And it's not irrelevancy. It's also just you're not needed here anymore. And so I sense the AI revolution that's underway currently is going to force not only sort of marketers, but let's talk about, you talked about it. You came out hot out of the gate about these white collar jobs. Maybe marketing is going to be top of the list. What else are you seeing, Adrian, that AI is coming for?
Learning and development.
L&D.
Yeah, L&D, it's like a primary target for AI. There's a lot of effort put by learning and development departments to develop training curriculums and everything within any organization, whether that's property management or it could be someone on a supplier side. I want you to think about this.
And this is across industry. This isn't just even multifamily.
It's exactly. It goes way beyond, right? I want you to think about this. The work that you're doing today, putting together a curriculum, and then actually partnering with learning platforms. This is another target for AI too, right? The learning platforms.
LMSs, yeah.
Yeah. There's AI out there being created, and I want to be specific, AI agents that deliver that information on demand. Don't think the LMSs have access to information that is like unique, because it's not. Everything that the LMS has, you could find with ChatGPT today. Therefore, LMSs, the way they're built today, they're being obliterated if they don't change. I'm not even sure what the solution is out there, but they're just, everything that they're trying to sell now, it's available on ChatGPT. So why would a management company pay tens of thousands of dollars if they're a large group for LMS to benefit from their training, when they could literally pay cents on a dollar to hire a company that has AI agents built that deliver this on demand based on what each employee, like tailored to what each employee needs. And that brings the conversation next. Is it even a need for property management companies to have learning and development departments? How many people out of all the people that are employed today are going to be needed to be employed when an AI agent could literally do 90% of that?
So to play devil's advocate for the L&D folks, which are great people, right? They come into the industry, they've been in the industry.
I'm saying this out of love. I'm not saying it out of hate at all.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing it like the writing is on the wall, really.
So if you're in the L&D department, say you're a marketer as well, you want to get ahead of this curve. What do you suggest? I mean, is it to understand AI and its technological capabilities to stay ahead of it? Is it to build your own brand? Is it to humanize the work that you do so it can't be outsourced, if you will? Like, what are some recommendations that you have? And I'm still curious, other departments that you may see in the financial division, accounting divisions. It appears this technology potentially could be coming for almost every division in every industry. It's not just multifamily.
Almost, yeah, not just multifamily. So I want to address the first part of your question. I'm going to say this, as far as like what type of skill, I think this prompt engineering is one of the most important, one of the hottest skills that someone could have today.
What is that for someone who doesn't really understand AI or prompt?
Understand how to prompt AI to get you the results that you want. You could use your intelligence and your personal experience to guide the AI that it could do things for you that you don't have to do from scratch. In other words, AI could write amazing articles or studies for you, but you just have to know how to prompt it to produce that type of. It does all the research, it does everything for you. You just have to know how to produce those prompts.
How do you get better at prompt engineering? Is there classes you could take, courses you could take? I mean, I'm personally interested in that. I know you've been working with AI platforms for many years now and have spoken to many on your podcast, AI experts as well. Like, how do you get better at this prompt engineering?
I think it's reverse engineering. You have to be very clear about the final product that you have in mind, and then you start with like a core, a number of prompts, basic prompts for AI. AI is gonna respond to you and build something, and then you will read that something that product, and you'll start criticizing it. Okay, right here it looks like you provide some information that's not real. Right here, I'm gonna need more stats, and basically you would look at AI as like someone that would execute that work for you. Like you will have an assistant,
like an employee,
like an employee, and then you give that particular employee some indications, some tasks, and the employee comes back with a product, and then you start criticizing it, and you criticizing it until it gives you the type of product that you expect.
To use a different word, refining it, sharpening it.
100%, 100%. You had to have that mindset of like you don't. First of all, I think a lot of folks are thinking that AI is like a replacement for us, for humans, and they're just shouting a couple of things at ChatGPT, and then whatever comes out of there is like copy paste, and that becomes the LinkedIn post or the Facebook post. I want you to spend more time. I think the secret in great writing is like rewriting. I use AI, I use technology, and then sometimes it takes me to write an article 3 or 4 hours with the assistance of AI. I don't settle for a certain product that AI is giving me. I keep asking questions, and I refine. So again, like sometimes I'm finding myself 4 hours later still working out there very hard. And personal experience, it's important too, because that's something that AI cannot replicate.
In the last 10 minutes, we've we've covered more about AI and its impact in multifamily than I feel like I ever hear anyone honestly in any public forum talking about this, and specifically public forum. It doesn't feel as though it's widely accepted to be this honest. And obviously when people hear this discussion, I think it'll cut a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. They'll say, no, he's wrong. He's not an AI expert. Or they're going to say he may be onto something. I think if anyone listens with a fairly open mind to what you have to say, they could tell that you've spent a lot of time and have talked to a lot of people in this space. You may not be an AI engineer per se, but I know you personally have spent a lot of time learning about this, and then also spending time talking to AI experts on your podcast and other programs about what's happening. Obviously, you're able to take that information and apply it to the industry that you've spent 20 years in to see how it can impact this industry. So we obviously talked about what can happen with AI. We talked about what individuals can potentially do to improve their skill set so that AI is not an immediate replacement. Why do you think the industry is often, I don't want to say afraid to talk about this, but really I don't feel like this conversation is acceptable at this time? And I think that's a disservice to many people who don't have the vision or don't have people around them that are visionaries to see what's happening outside listening to something like this or listening to you. So why don't you think the industry is willing to talk about this openly, this frankly at this time?
Insecurity at the highest level. Huge insecurities at the highest level of organizations.
Unpack that. What do you, I mean, obviously we hear you loud and clear, and those who have been around, know that there's probably, quite an element of truth of that. But what are they insecure about?
I think that the fact that, for someone that, grows in an industry, work very hard and has been rewarded, and I say rightfully so.
Sure, worked hard and earned their
because
spot.
you don't just end up, running a company by mistake, by accident.
Hopefully not.
But at the same, hopefully yes. But at the same time, there's also truth in fact that we've been very in a bubble for the 2 decades that I've been in. Like, I haven't seen too much disruption and too much stuff that we embrace from outside. I'm going to give a few examples just so...
Lack of innovation, ultimately.
Exactly, right? Innovation, that's the word. That's what I was looking for. And that comes from the fact that the way real estate's been like very successful, making profits for everyone, for all the stakeholders involved, it was a pretty easy process. Buy it, hold it long enough, everybody's going to make enough money.
Manage it well enough.
And then there's no incentive. There's no incentive. At that top level, there's no incentive to innovate, right? So the only ways I saw us innovating is through pain. An external factor, something that doesn't come from within. COVID was the best example.
Say the pandemic.
The COVID, because we couldn't have the one-on-one interactions, we got to build technology to like supplement that lack of one-on-one contact, and
we had to innovate in real time to figure it out.
Yeah, they had to move fast. So again, I challenge everyone that's watching the conversation here to think about companies that have been like incredibly successful outside of our world, right? Let's take Uber. Okay, imagine a Uber for labor, force maintenance, or for property management in general. There's a lot of folks that are very attracted, or like their life does not allow them to have W-2 jobs. Therefore, they're very inclined to take a gig, something that's like not a commitment full time. They could work a few days a week or a few hours a day.
So like an Angie's List or a Fiverr. I mean, there's a lot of these platforms out now, right?
Yes, literally just a platform that matches individuals that want to provide their services and their knowledge, their skill set to property management companies for a limited period of time, project-based or like fractional.
And you're saying from maintenance to leasing to any on-site operation?
Just about anything. Just about anything. So that's one example. Second example is Amazon. I keep saying this for years. And it appears that Amazon is actually making a play in multifamily. We just haven't heard. It's like not news yet, but I know, I have on good note that they're actually deploying resources in multifamily when it comes to MRO. Well, when you think about all the MRO models of the current MRO players in a space, not a single one of them can stand a chance against Amazon.
What do you, when you refer to MRO?
maintenance suppliers, maintenance parts suppliers. Everyone that's in a space right now, it's basically a target. If Amazon comes in, it's going to be game over pretty fast.
So you're saying, if I understand correctly, maintenance suppliers, whether it be the HDs, the Chadwells, that right now have an industry lock. You're saying that Amazon is looking at this space and saying we can get you parts faster, cheaper, and more cost effective than some of the current providers in your own space.
It appears so. For them, it only takes like we're gonna enter this industry, we're gonna deploy these resources and make it a focus.
Do you think it's because Amazon, obviously as savvy as they are and a global player, is identifying industries across the country that maybe are low-hanging fruit and haven't optimized or innovated in a long time?
I think the nature of Amazon's business is that they had to continue to expand in order to keep delivering for their stakeholders. And then if you're not finding new industry, new ways to expand, then obviously that's going to be a problem with the stakeholders. And multifamily, it's a low-hanging fruit for them.
That's intense.
Very intense. McDonald's, next, right? McDonald's, what do we know about McDonald's? Maybe not everybody is very familiar with them. One of the largest real estate owners in the world. It's one of the top real estate owners in the world.
They're on every corner.
Yeah. So they own the real estate. That's what a lot of folks probably don't realize. So they're not just a burger and fries company. What type of system made them successful as a business? Finding people with zero training, with zero knowledge, paying them low wages, and actually integrating them into their playbook, into their system, and making billions and billions of dollars. How is that computing with, does it sound familiar? When you're thinking about low wages, little or no training, it's exactly what we do in multifamily. Yeah. And then we've been struggling for all the time that I've been in the industry solving this. McDonald's already had it figured out. If they're deciding tomorrow that they're going to make a play and then they will be investing in running multifamily, it's going to be very tough for the current operators to keep up with that or to compete.
Yeah,
I don't see that playing out well for them.
I think the point that you're making, which is, I knew we were going to come into this conversation and talk about some things that were going to be disruptive to the industry, but I think some of the points that you're making is even more concerning for this industry than anything, just because I think you just said it, I think we're low-hanging fruit. We're an industry that hasn't innovated in decades probably. The pandemic was the only large event that challenged property management companies to think outside the box and try to innovate. Now, and once market conditions improve, my sense is, and from my experience, is that oftentimes property management companies and leaders by nature just fall back into a comfortable zone of providing returns to their stakeholders with very minimal innovation and just don't rock the boat. While you have technology companies, AI-driven and also growth-driven, looking to swallow whole segments of industry that are sleeping at the wheel.
Not only that, but I think AI is exposing a lot of the inefficiencies and maybe the lack of competence at every single level, at the highest level. It's going to be impossible for the old way of doing business to be the way of doing business 5-10 years from now.
So who and you don't have to name the players, right? You don't have to name the companies, but who are the characters, who are the visionaries, who are the leaders that will help pioneer multifamily into the next decade?
It's very hard to tell. I'm having conversations with a lot of high-level executives. I'm seeing a lot of them that are actually understanding the impact of AI. They're actually hiring experts that are knowledgeable AI experts, and they're bringing them into their teams to be exposed to help their companies moving forward. So I think that's a positive sign, right? I don't want to sound like it's just doom and gloom.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a doomsday pod, right?
I'm seeing that too, and I'm very encouraged. And by the way, without mentioning names, but I do talk with a lot of executives, and this keeps coming up in a conversation because I know it's coming, right? It's coming for us. It's already here. We just don't realize it yet. It's just not that obvious. But probably by the time we're seeing it, it's gonna be, for some folks that haven't been involved with it, it's gonna be late. They're going to be missing that train. But yeah, there are leaders that are seriously concerned about what's happening, and they're trying to bring bright minds from the technology side, or strategically pair with technology companies and individuals that are AI savvy, to kind of integrate that into their system. We're talking about jobs that are like target underwriting. Underwriting, it's on a chopping block. Like there's a lot of stuff that actually ChatGPT could do on the underwriting side that typically an analyst takes few days. AI does like in minutes or seconds, and that only is going to get better. So that's an entire class of very highly paid jobs that is just going to be disappearing.
Yeah, no, it's a really sobering assessment, and I know you spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people, and I know you talk to executives about their perspective as well, and that sounds encouraging that they are bringing in AI experts into their organization to say, how does our workflows, how's our current tech stack, if you will, how's it currently operating, and how's it operate in the future, and help us sort of navigate that path.
Actually, tech stack is gonna be another target too, and I'm very glad for the folks that work at the site level, for the end user, because I feel their pain. It's unrealistic that you will hire like a leasing agent, for example. Most companies expect them to be proficient in 60 plus pieces of software.
Yeah.
And then companies are blocked. They're looking at all this tech stack, and they're completely like in, what do we do?
Yeah.
And I think AI is gonna sort that out.
Yeah.
And it's gonna flush out all the unnecessary stuff, all the garbage. It's gonna flush it out, and then AI agents
We'll say
are going to be like the next level, AI that's going to be coming in, and you will reveal a lot of the stuff and a lot of unnecessary expense.
So it sounds like what you're saying is, AI technology is going to really audit most companies at this point.
Their products, they're being built as we speak right now. They're basically auditing your tech stack. They're auditing what's not working, what has low adoption rates, and where your employees are spending the most time trying to figure out the tech. And that's gonna be red flagged, and it's gonna be questioned, it's gonna be audited. Not a lot of technology that companies are using right now, management companies, is going to be around 5 years from now. Mark my words for that.
Let's pivot a bit and talk about, we talked about brand a little bit earlier. Let's talk about this sort of, for lack of a better term, you and I sort of joke about this term, the influencer term.
Yeah.
And those who are in the space, some have called you an influencer. I'm sure, I used to think of it as a 4-letter word. I've been willing to lean into it a little bit more these days, and think that influence is a good thing, not a bad thing. Obviously, if you're influencing for good. There's many in the industry, some who have been in our industry for a very long time that perceive this to be a fad, and they're thankful that it's going away soon. How is this going to evolve? My sense, it's just the tip of the iceberg that some are tapping into. What do you say to those listening that maybe want to continue to grow an influence and want to continue to grow their personal brand so that they can, in some ways, be recession-proof or valuable through the duration of the AI revolution?
We're just at the beginning of it. We haven't even scratched the surface. I think more and more people are becoming savvy, understanding that there is a lot of value into becoming, probably this is not the word that I would use, influencer. And for me, it's not as important that you're seen as a person of influence, that you're influencing people, but you're definitely driving change.
Conversations, topics.
You're definitely driving change in a way or another. I think most are looking at the word influencer as, and they equate that with Kim Kardashian or something that's they equate it to something that's trivial, right?
Merchandise.
Exactly. Right. And look, in all reality, I mentioned Kim Kardashian. I take a lot of respect. She's like an incredible marketer. I think there's a lot of incredible lessons for all of us to learn, right? How to market ourselves, how to build our brand and everything, right? So
That's interesting. I think you make a great point. I do think that that term has been trivialized greatly to just somebody who's selling surface level goods. My experience has been both personally and observing you and a few others in the industry. Really, what they're influencing is and changing or impacting. To your point, is true thought leadership, is the way that we think about things, the way that we see things, the way that we see the industry, the way that we see people, culture, environments, all the things that you hear the workforce talking, and sometimes you and I hear in direct message, right, that they're complaining about, right? They can't do it publicly, but privately,
Yep.
they tell people like you and I. So I find that point incredibly spot on, and doesn't sound like it's going anywhere.
No, no. It only becomes bigger.
And it becomes bigger. Is it with now that AI is sort of taking over kind of the mundane discussions and the checklist items, and now those who actually have a prominent voice of influence or of thought leadership is now sort of rising to the top, and then also organic content is continuing to rise in rank as well?
Yeah, the human factor cannot be overlooked. What do I mean by that? AI is just a tool, and I think it's a mistake to see it as anything else. So AI, it's not going to create anything new. It's gonna mix and match existing information, existing thoughts, but it's not creating anything new, right? It's a mix and match type of thing. You will
Or it's auditing, or those
yes,
sorts
you will always need a human to do that.
to create ultimately.
To create. And then the particularity of a human is that each one of us has our own personal experience that AI cannot replicate. Like AI cannot pull everything that's in my brain unless I'm like willingly sharing.
Unless you're plugged in USB.
Exactly. Everything else, cannot be like pulled out of this. And I think this is where humans still have like an advantage. I'm not sure about the future. I can't predict how that's gonna play out. But currently, I think original thoughts that are being expressed are becoming more and more valuable because they're impossible to be replicated by AI through the mere fact that AI is not again creating anything.
So what I hear you saying, and it's encouraging, I think, hopefully to those listening, those who are actively engaging in their own sort of brain and thoughts and creativity, is to say continue to double down and lean into that, right? Continue to be thinking and putting pieces together from your own experience, and then creating thought leadership or articles or written pieces into the universe, so that you can be seen as, like you were with that technician, you're seen as the authority for that individual because you wrote that article. I think that's very well said. I want to sort of pivot a little bit further even to the future of some of the projects that you may be working on that you're excited about. I know you're working with different clients across the country. What are you most excited about? Obviously, we know you're passionate about technology and AI and obviously how that's going to transform the industry. Tell us about Adrian and Multifamily X and some exciting projects that you guys are working on in the future.
Yeah, so we're working with a few brands that I think understand the need for organic content, the importance, and how that's going to play in the future. I don't position myself as an expert. I still believe that I'm a student. I'm learning every day, but I'm a practitioner. And I think, this could be like very, very valuable. I've been practicing this for my own brand for several years now. And I'll say with a fair level of success. So we're working with the brands to get their stories out there, to increase their visibility. And then another project that's not necessarily Multifamily X project is going to be, it's a legacy project, a passion of mine, and more to come, obviously. I'm very determined to create something at scale that's going to solve the labor shortage that we're facing in multifamily maintenance. There's a plan well on the way. Hopefully within the next 4 to 6 weeks, I'll be able to share more details about how is that going to play out and how we're going to execute. And we have some incredible names that agree to join me in a process, so stay tuned for more.
That's exciting. Thanks for dropping that on the pod. And we're excited to hear more about that. I'm personally excited to hear more about that. You're somebody that travels the country, not just for your clients, but you spend a lot of time on the conference floors as well, both listening to thought leadership sessions, expo floors, meeting with suppliers. Talk to me about your perspective of conferences, big, small, the in between. How will those be affected? Also, I think as the changing marketplace occurs, you to me very much are a subject matter expert of the conference circuit. You've spent the last couple of years really on the road in a lot of ways, spending a lot of time at different conferences, both big and small. I'd love to get your take on that. Hopefully, conference association leaders and others may be listening to this. What's your take on the future of conferences?
Yeah, I see the future very bright for conferences because we're still craving that in-person interaction, and that's what conferences mainly provide. Opportunities, incredible opportunities for everyone that's considering. I wanted to share a few things here. Well, in regards to conferences. So I had friends of mine that reached out for advice. Which conferences do you, because just like you said, they know that I'm traveling the country and I'm on a conference circuit heavily. And hey, what's your experience with so-and-so conference? We maybe tested a couple of times and it didn't work out for us. Well, it's just coincidental. At times I'm thinking that, the same type of conference was like very fruitful for me. I think it's all about how you execute. I think there's value in all those events, but it's just about how you execute. If you're sending your sales team out there and, the sales team finds ways to get in front of decision makers, and that's supposed to be their role, right? To engage with them and everything, this could be a very incredible opportunity for you. But if they choose to hang out at the bar with other salespeople from like various organizations, then the feedback probably is going to be for you from them. Then it didn't really work out. It wasn't much for us to do out there. So that's one thing. The other opportunity that I'm seeing for conferences is that to capture that content that's being lost is being wasted right now. Most conferences that I'm going to, they don't record the content, like all the roundtables or the panels. This information is like completely wasted because...
Why aren't they doing it? Or do they just not have it set up that way? Or
I'm not understanding. I think, most of them are thinking it's a matter of cost. I'll just say, imagine if you were to invest this. And for most of it, if you're a conference, you could just like get a sponsor.
Right, a media
to
sponsor,
help you.
Right.
A media sponsor to pay for it. Capture all that content, and that's going to help you year round. Like there's conferences that could literally put so much content out 365 year round just from like a conference that's like 3 day long. They have...
Yeah, I think there's some perception of proprietary, come to the conference and you'll hear this. But I think what they're missing, and you're spot on, there's opportunities to tease out the content for future conferences. Come next year, there's sound bites. I mean, it's a lot of what we're going to do on this podcast, right? And what you do on your podcast is the sound bites, is the short clips, right? And then you want to hear the full episode and those sorts of things. I think it's a complete miss oftentimes, and really has been, ever since. And hopefully in the coming years, they'll start putting the pieces together. I'm encouraged. I see some conferences finally sort of putting photo galleries together, and that's kind of the first step, I think. But I think you're referring to audio, recording the on-panel stuff, and to be honest, I think it will also force the content of these conferences to be better, right? Because if you are starting to record it and it's getting low engagement, or the content itself is mediocre, then it's going to challenge, I think, those in charge of conferences to make sure that they are getting true thought leaders in their space on these panels as well, versus just self-identifying yourself as a thought leader, submitting, writing a great outline, getting on a panel. But are you truly a subject matter expert in what you provided? Obviously that's always subject to consideration. So
yeah, no, I'm really excited to see how this is gonna play out and how it's gonna change. But you're absolutely right. I think it's this proprietary feeling that they're trying to sell, I think, to the audience in a way.
If you come to this conference, you'll hear this dynamic information.
I'm just gonna say this to their disappointment. There's almost nothing out there that's being said on those panels that you can't find on the internet nowadays.
Don't say that.
Or you can find with ChatGPT. So if you really think that you have information nobody else has, you don't. Your play is going to be who's going to deliver that information, right? Yeah. So it goes back to the individual and how that information is being delivered. Because when you think about, let's just take Gary Vaynerchuk. He basically speaks about the same things all the time, and he still gets paid $300,000 or $500,000 per speech. But the reason why is that they want Gary, because nobody can deliver like Gary.
Well, he's figured out how to scale his message, right? And his message is somewhat simple in a lot of ways.
you have to keep it simple. I
Yeah.
think it's that KISS rule, right? Where how the Latins were saying "Santa simplicitas," were like keep it
Keep it
keep it
simple.
simple, stupid. Yeah, it really is like it lays into simplicity because it's also about like how can you make that information very digestible, very accessible to a large group of people. Don't speak in like too much academic terms or like too high level because that makes it inaccessible for most people.
Sure, unless you're speaking to an academic crowd, which
Of course, that's different.
depend on your audience. As we kind of come to an end, and this is I've enjoyed this, Adrian, and I've learned a lot. And we talk almost every week, and some things you dropped today, and I'm like, I didn't even think about that. But let's talk about podcasts. You're here on this one. You have how many do you have now?
5.
5 different podcasts, different brands, different titles, different co-hosts as well. You and I have gone back and forth, I think, on this. I think you're very like you were with conferences, you're very bullish on this type of medium. I think if anyone's listened to this entire podcast to this point, I think they probably know why. I think I understand why you're so bullish even more now today after hearing you talk, is because it's about capturing that media and getting it out to the public at scale. Can I assume that that's your position on podcasts? And if there's somebody at home that wants to start a podcast or be a part of a podcast, I feel as though you're the podcast expert in multifamily. You've been in the game probably one of the longest, 5-7 years now, producing a podcast, something like that.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah, when nobody was, right? And I'm sure
a very few.
I'm sure you're looking at your technology at the time, just kind of basic. Now, obviously, you're in full studio like this as well. What's your take on podcasts going forward in the future? And if somebody wants to be a part of a podcast or start a podcast, what would you say to them?
Podcast is the main form of communication in today's world. The main form. The old media is dead. And then podcast is growing by the day. And then when you think about it, there's a lot of room. People are looking at the landscape in the industry and say, there's too many podcasts. Okay, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. You had to look at how many quality podcasts are out there, right? And then you had to look at the quality of the content. Mm-hmm. There will always be room for quality content in our industry, outside the industry, anywhere and everywhere. So don't look at the volume, look at the quality. If you're able to put some quality conversations out there, there will always be a room for you. I can remember in a past year or so, Shiv came out right out of the gate, and she started doing studio only. At the time, I didn't realize the impact.
Who was this?
Shiv.
Oh, Shiv, of course.
Shiv. Soon enough, I was incredibly impressed with him and his commitment to do it on the road. And the results are showing too, because people are loving it. So that's the best example out there. Podcast, again, it's like having the whole entire animal and using every piece of the animal when you do podcasts. Because first you're going to have your video content in long form. Then you could slice that up in probably this conversation is 60, 70 minutes. You could slice out 20, 30 shorts easily from that. This could give you content for an entire quarter, right? And then you could also do written content from it. The transcript, because remember the video content is not searchable. So if you're searching for certain things, for certain topics, you have to have it in a search in a written format. So you could get the transcript and get it up on your website or wherever people are consuming your content. You could write blog pieces about a particular conversation. You could do many things with it and write posts about it, create LinkedIn or Facebook posts from it.
So if anyone's listening, essentially you're giving them the playbook to content, right? So
100%. It's just a very I'll say very, very high level if you wish, or we could get very deep. This could be a topic of an entire episode that we could talk about content.
What you and I and other content experts understand is produce one piece of content. Oftentimes you can cut, splice, skin the cat in a million different ways, and it creates a lot of unique pieces of content 100%. That you put on different platforms as well. And I think Gary Vee has shown us kind of that initial playbook, and then for those of us in multifamily doing content at a higher level than most, also understand this game a bit better, and so obviously they can reach out to you if they have interest in learning more about that.
I love to share. I'm always excited to see someone that's considering podcast
Yeah.
And I consider them, even if they haven't started following a fellow podcaster.
Yeah. Well, AD, as we conclude here, how can someone reach out to you? How can they get in touch with you if they want to do business with you? I'm sure it's pretty easy to do. Chat GPT you,
Yeah.
right, these days.
I'll say LinkedIn is like the main platform. That's where I have probably 90% of my presence. Adrian C, middle initial Danila. Reach out, shoot me a DM if we're not connected yet. I love to also connect with you too if we're not connected yet. And I hope that everybody found this conversation interesting, maybe thought-provoking.
You can't guarantee everybody, but hopefully a lot of people do.
I can't, and maybe it was too much. Maybe it was a little too much for some folks. Everything that I said, it's not coming out of frustration or or hate or anything. I'm seeing some things very clearly, and I'm only trying to just use my voice to kind of make some points for those that maybe aren't seeing things, that they're coming our way, to maybe like seeing them sooner, and just like take action and like change course on time.
Well, I appreciate you, man. A personal note, anything you're looking forward to at the end of the year? Any travels? I know you've gone to Romania a time or two. The family, everybody doing okay? Anything exciting to share or anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, actually, several conferences still in the books, as you could imagine. So next week is Blueprint. So I have a roundtable there. Also next week is going to be the MX Summit.
Wow.
In Rapid City. I'm going to be speaking there. I'm going to be a speaker. Then, it's UpTech, and, there's several other regional conferences that I'm planning on attending between now and the end of the year. And the week after Blueprint, I'm going to take a little break. I have a conference in Romania. I'm going to go spend some time with my mom, and she wanted to go to the Canary Islands, so I said, why not? So that's where you're going to be finding me. I'm sure that you will be seeing a lot of me like in Europe and with a family within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Well, that's exciting, man, and well-deserved break. And for the audience and myself, tell Mama hello on our behalf. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being such a good friend. Thanks for being willing to be honest about some of these things. And yeah, I'm sure for some it may be a lot, but I think this content later will be ahead of its time in the coming years, and I think you probably know that to be true because you're studying ahead of your time, and you're a deep thinker and a learner. And thanks for sharing that on today's show. And I'm not sure if you've had a chance to really talk about a lot of this stuff on any other podcast. I know most of the time you're the one asking questions, so it's kind of nice.
It's true. It's kind of nice to turn the tables and just be the one that delivers the answers versus the one asking the questions.
Well, I've learned a lot today, and I appreciate you quite a bit, again, as a friend and as a colleague in Multifamily. So thanks for joining us today.
Appreciate you, brother.